Chapter 33 Promotion to Fighting Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The elixir Lin Feng wants to refine this time is a second-grade peak elixir called Qi Restoration Pill. This elixir is among the second-grade elixirs and is extremely difficult to refine. After taking it, the fighting spirit in the human body can be quickly restored. The effect is better for those in the fighter and master stage, but if you are a great master, the effect may be somewhat unsatisfactory. At the same time, this prescription was also the highest grade prescription he got from Dou Qi. After the temperature of the cold medicine cauldron gradually increased, Lin Feng flicked his fingers on the ring, and a light green herb appeared in his palm. Then, he threw it in from the entrenched snake head on the top of the medicine cauldron. As soon as the medicinal materials entered the medicine cauldron, the red flames inside surged up and continued to smoke the medicinal materials. As time went by, the light green grass blades gradually turned brown, and green liquid continued to flow out of the grass blades. Finally, the body completely turned into black ash, leaving only a ball of cyan liquid rolling continuously in the medicine cauldron. Lin Feng saw this, picked up the jade bottle, waved his hand, and the cyan liquid in the medicine cauldron fell accurately into the jade bottle. After that, he casually picked up a huiling qi fruit next to him and threw it in. After a while, Lin Feng took a breath of distress as he looked at the refined medicinal materials. He collected a total of 20 medicinal materials for the Qi Restoration Pill. After refining them, he only got 15 of them. The rest were damaged due to various reasons during the refining process. The medicinal materials needed to refine the Qi Recovery Pill were obtained by him through hard work. Especially in order to pick the main material huiling red fruit, I was chased by a second-level blizzard demon ape for a long time, although he later successfully counterattacked. Seeing these materials destroyed was naturally much more distressing than destroying medicinal materials stolen from others. After finishing the medicinal materials, he continued to put his hand on the medicine cauldron, injected Dou Qi to make a fire, and put in the extracts of the 4 kinds of medicine including Qi and grass in sequence. As the fire continued to burn, the medicinal essences of several different colors began to gradually merge. The liquid and powder merged with each other, and then slowly rolled in the flames. As time went by, the prototype of the elixir gradually appeared in the medicine cauldron. At this time, the prototype of the elixir was full of pits and bumps, and its shape was completely irregular. The luster on the surface is also green and purple. It looks like a strange object covered with water chestnuts. It is not as round and shiny as those finished elixirs. Looking at the ugly prototype of the elixir, Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. At this point, alchemy is almost 90% successful, and the rest is much easier. A moment later, Lin Feng aimed at the opportunity and quickly grabbed a handful of huiling qi fruit powder and threw it into the medicine cauldron while controlling the flame to decrease. After being smoked and roasted for more than 10 minutes, the powder of the huiling qi fruit slowly blended into the elixir. At the same time, the Chu Dan also began to become smooth and round. When the elixir was almost fully stored in the medicine cauldron, with a move of his hand, a pure white elixir flew out from the medicine cauldron. Then Lin Feng quickly took out the jade bottle from the side and put it in. Half a day later, seeing Lin Feng put away the last pill, the little medical fairy walked up and praised, "With your current alchemy skills, it won't take long for you to become a third-level alchemist." Looking at the 11 rejuvenation pills in the jade bottle, Lin Feng shook his head slightly and replied, "It can't be that easy. I don't even have a third-grade prescription." After saying that, he looked at her standing aside, with longing in her beautiful eyes. She stroked the medicine cauldron carefully and said with a smile, "Actually, you don't need to be envious. If you can find the strange fire and control your physique, you can also practice some elixirs." "Really, doesn't the alchemist need the attributes of fire and wood?" Upon hearing this, the little medical fairy's eyes widened slightly, a little in disbelief. "The attributes are suitable, just to make it easier for you to get started and to have a higher upper limit. I can't guarantee that for high-level people like you, but if the strength is improved, and with the help of strange fire, low-level elixirs, it's still not a problem." "Hey, I don't expect that much. As long as I can practice, I'll be satisfied." Hearing Lin Feng's affirmative answer, the little medical fairy laughed innocently, and the desire for strange fire in her heart became a little stronger. It's easy for you to satisfy yourself, Before he finished speaking, Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed, and his body began to absorb Dou Qi uncontrollably. Soon, he came to his senses and said in surprise, "Am I going to break through the Dou Master?" The little medical fairy on the side also hurriedly exited the cave to avoid disturbing his breakthrough. And Lin Feng didn't expect that he would unexpectedly have the opportunity to break through the Dou Master, without having time to think too much. He quickly put the elixirs into the Neji, then hurriedly sat cross-legged and meditated, and started to advance. At this moment, under the rapid movement of the Dou Qi cyclone, the Dou Qi in the cave surged crazily into Lin Feng's body. The chaotic Dou Qi passes through the meridian specific to the technique and turns into wisps of pure Dou Qi, which is finally absorbed by the Dou Qi cyclone. At the same time, the size of the cyclone is gradually shrinking, but the fighting spirit contained in it is getting stronger and stronger. After absorbing it for several hours, Lin Feng didn't know how much fighting spirit he had absorbed. At this time, liquefaction has begun to occur within the cyclone. As the gas continues to decrease, there is more and more liquefied fighting spirit. I don't know how long it took. When the last trace of gas was completely liquefied, the liquid Dou Qi in the cyclone was suddenly thrown in all directions of the body by the Dou Qi cyclone. The radiating liquid fighting energy was thrown to almost every part of the body, and whenever the liquid Dou Qi touches the meridians, bones, and flesh, it slowly blends into it. Lin Feng suddenly felt bursts of ecstasy in his heart, and he could feel the intrusion of the liquid fighting energy. Every piece of his bones, flesh and blood is almost like a transformation, gradually filled with powerful power. This behavior lasted for more than 10 minutes before slowly stopping. As the rotation of the cyclone gradually stopped, Lin Feng's action of absorbing fighting energy from the outside also began to weaken until it disappeared. The moment the suction disappeared, Lin Feng in the cave suddenly opened his eyes. In an instant, the black hair on her back swelled automatically without the wind, and the clothes on her body bulged without the wind. A fierce aura that was several times more powerful than what he had a few hours ago emanated from his body as if he was awakening. The fluttering clothes on the body lasted for a long time before slowly sticking to Lin Feng's skin. He exhaled the turbid air expelled from his body and stood up. The joy on his face could not be concealed. Now, he has finally been promoted from a fighter to a real fighter. Chapter 34 The Little Fairy Doctor Leaves. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 34 The little medical fairy leaves. That he clenched his fists and felt the fighting spirit that had never been so full. Control your mind and quickly sink into your body, arriving at the vortex of fighting energy. At this time, the cyclone has completely transformed from the original gaseous cyclone into a liquid cyclone. Among them, there are more than a dozen drops of red energy liquid hovering. And every small drop of crimson liquid contains extremely full and powerful energy. Lin Feng did a simple calculation and found that if he were still a 9-star fighter, all the fighting energy in his body would only be converted into about 3 drops of energy liquid. He opened his eyes excitedly, stretched out his hands, and shook them violently. In an instant, red fighting spirit slowly emerged on the surface of the clothes, and finally formed a layer of fighting spirit as a defense. This is the signature skill only available in the Dou Shi realm, Dou Qi Shai. The breakthrough was successful. Let's have dinner first. While Lin Feng was playing with Dou Qi Shai, a sweet voice came from the door. Looking at the little medical fairy walking slowly in from outside the cave, Lin Feng looked at the sky outside through the hole again, and found that the sun had disappeared at some point, replaced by a hopeless black screen. Above the dark night, the silver moon hung high, and the faint moonlight covered the earth with a layer of silver gauze, making it look extremely mysterious. Is it night? It's so fast. Walking outside, looking at the valley in the night, he sighed, and immediately followed the little medical fairy to the small stove to start enjoying dinner. In a few days, I'm going to the Izumo Empire. Looking at Lin Feng who was eating happily, the little medical fairy lowered her head and was silent for a long time. Then, a deep voice came from her pink lips. Didn't you agree to come with me? Hearing this, Lin Feng frowned and immediately put down the rice bowl in his hand. Woody raised her head, looked directly into Lin Feng's eyes, and said, I have decided. Seeing the determined gaze of the little medical fairy, Lin Feng's heart suddenly sank. After several months of getting along, he also knew the character of the little medical fairy. Once she decided on something, it would be impossible to persuade her to stop her. Thinking about the past few months, he had led the little medical fairy to kill Warcraft in the Warcraft Mountains from time to time, and he also had some practical experience, coupled with her special physique. Even an ordinary peak fighting master can handle it. What's more, he couldn't tie up the little medical fairy and go with him. He seems to be unable to defeat the little medical fairy now. After thinking for a while, Lin Feng had no choice but to nod in agreement and said, "Okay, but I will give you 5 years at most. After 5 years, no matter what, you must come back." Seeing that her boyfriend agreed, the little medical fairy was relieved, although she also wanted to go out with Lin and explore, but she knew that going to the Azumo Empire was the best choice for her now. Staying next to Lin Feng will only bring him trouble. He secretly hid the drug in his sleeves, pulled a strand of hair from his eyes behind his ears, and said, "How will I find you then? I should have been at Canaan College at that time. Of course, if you hadn't come to me at that time, I would have come back here to wait for you." Looking at the night sky, Lin Feng thought for a while and then said, "Ah." At dawn, on a huge rock in the valley, the little medical fairy nestled in Lin Feng's arms and took a slight breath. "Put the bamboo whistle in your hand into your ruddy little mouth, blow it gently, and the faint sound waves will immediately reach the sky." Listening to the sound waves, the blue eagle in the sky immediately circled down. As its wings flapped, it blew the plants around Lin Feng to the ground. "Let's go." Taking a step forward, the little medical fairy put her soft body against her boyfriend's arms and said softly, nodding. Lin Feng stretched out his arms and wrapped his arms around the seemingly frail Lu waist. With the soles of their feet kicking on the ground, the two men's bodies suddenly rose up from the ground, and finally landed steadily on the back of Blue Eagle. "I hope you can grow up quickly, otherwise, my limitations will be too great." On a hill, Lin Feng touched his lips that were still warm, looked at Blue Eagle's retreating back, and murmured, "What he needs most now is a strong enough person to stand up for him, in this case, as long as he releases some information about the strange fire in his hand." In order to upgrade his skills, Xiao Yan was so anxious that he had to come to his door to apologize and compensate him. As for Xiao Yan, he also knows some news about the strange fire. So what if Xiao Yan knew it? If Xiao Yan dared not to pay hush money, then don't blame him for spreading the news to the entire northwest continent. Of course, all of this is based on the fact that there is at least one Dozone-level strongman protecting him. Otherwise, Xiao Yan would not reason with him either. As long as he knew that he had information about the strange fire, he would probably come to question him immediately and silence him. With a sigh, Lin Feng looked at the dark sky, then spread his wings and flew towards Black Rock City while the light was still dim. It really hasn't changed at all. A few days later, Lin Feng sighed as he looked at Black Rock City, which he had not seen for half a year. Then he took out the Alchemist apprentice's medal and put it on before striding towards the city. Following the bluestone streets in the city, Lin Feng came to a remote place. After putting on a black burqa to hide his true appearance, he walked straight to Middle Auction House. Middle Auction House is the largest auction house with the widest coverage in the Garma Empire. At the same time, it belongs to the richest family in the Garma Empire, the Mtlnovel family, because there are Douang-level masters in charge and they are extremely wealthy. Incidents of robbing customers rarely occur. Therefore, in the Jia Ma Empire, buying and selling items from Mitre Auction House is a relatively safe way. After a while, Lin Feng came to a huge and luxurious golden building. Under the alert gazes of several armed guards at the door, Lin Feng, wearing a black burqa, walked in. Without stopping, as soon as he entered the auction house, the hot feeling was as if it was being stripped away from the body. The cool feeling gave people a strange feeling of two worlds inside and outside. As soon as he entered the hall, a maid came directly to greet him. He bowed to Lin Feng and said softly, "Dear guest, do you have any needs?" Lin Feng tugged on the brim of his robe, and a deep voice came out, "I need a volume of third-grade prescriptions. Do you have them here?" "Okay, guest, please follow me to the VIP room to discuss in detail." When the maid heard that Lin Feng wanted to buy a prescription, or a third-grade medicine, she was a little excited, but the good training quickly brought her back to her senses, and she quickly invited Lin Feng to the VIP room. You know, prescriptions and medicine cauldrons are not cheap. Even the lowest grade first-grade prescriptions cost no less than 100,000 yuan. Can Lin Feng responded and immediately followed the maid to the VIP room. After arriving at the VIP room, the maid on the side quickly served hot tea and then slowly withdrew. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was sitting on the expensive rosewood chair, drinking tea silently. Chapter 35 Level 3 Alchemist. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 35 Third Grade Alchemist. After waiting for a few minutes, footsteps suddenly came from outside the door, and then gradually came closer from far away. Then, the wooden door of the VIP room was gently opened, and a man in his 30s walked in. Hello guest, I am the manager of the Black Rock City branch, my name is Lu Jin. Do you need a volume of third-grade prescriptions? Arriving in the room, the man stepped forward, clasped his fists in salute, and asked politely. Yes, do you have any here? Lin Feng nodded slightly and asked again. Manager Lu Jin glanced at the brim of Lin Feng's black robe and replied, our Black Rock City branch does have 2 volumes of third-grade prescriptions. Then, Lu Jin introduced Lin Feng. These 2 volumes of third-grade prescriptions are qi-breaking pills and injury-suppressing pills respectively. After taking this qi-breaking pill, it can increase people of the fighter class by 1 star. It has no effect on breaking through the fighter class. Therefore, most people would not want to buy this prescription unless they really have no choice. After sorting out the gold coin cards on hand, there were a total of more than 100,000, and I suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. However, thinking about the pitiful 4 digits on his gold coin card, the excitement was suddenly washed away. Every time you read the prescription written by the soul power, it consumes the soul power in the scroll, making the traces of the soul in it become blurry. However, this seemed a bit indifferent to Lin Feng. Suddenly, the information in the scroll came directly into his mind. After changing clothes in a remote alley, he randomly entered an inn in the city, opened a room, and stayed in it. Seemingly sensing Lin Feng's doubts, Lu Jin explained, the reason why the price is so cheap is because these 2 volumes of prescriptions have been read 4 times before, and now there is only the last chance to read them completely. A month later, it was discovered that there were several second-level magic cores in Mu Shi's collection. Together with the medicinal materials in Boss Yao's Neji and the materials for the qi-breaking pill, a total of 3 copies could be collected. At this time, Lin Feng stared at the ugly, irregular-shaped pill in the medicine cauldron, fearing that there would be another mistake. Lin Feng, whose face was pale due to severe consumption of fighting energy, looked at the qi-breaking pill in his hand and said excitedly, I can be considered a third-grade alchemist now. After hearing his explanation, Lin Feng instantly understood the reason for the low price. No wonder. Now he just wants to get the third-grade medicine prescription as soon as possible, and then improve his medicine refining skills, and has never thought about trading the medicine prescription again. Soon, with a wave of his hand, a silver-white elixir accurately fell into the jade bottle in his hand. There was a hint of bitterness in the corner of his mouth, and he said to himself, oh, no wonder so many people are vying to join the big forces. It is really too much of a disadvantage to fight alone. I have to do everything myself. It seems that when I find Qin Lin, it is time you can consider going to Canaan College. Therefore, he didn't care how many times the prescription was read, as long as he could read the contents of the prescription completely. As long as a volume of prescriptions is read more than 5 times, the content inside will basically become fragmented and incomplete. These gold coins should be able to support his practice until he successfully masters the qi-breaking pill. Looking at the scroll in his hand, even though he had already experienced a soul reading before, he still couldn't help but marvel at the magic of this method. On the Dou Qi Continent, except for the out-of-reach Emperor-level elixirs, they are divided into grades 1 to 9. It only costs 350,000 gold coins, and the guests can take it away. Moreover, the excess energy in the elixir will wash away the body of the person who takes it, which has a slight effect of strengthening muscles and bones. The maid followed Lu Jin to Lin Feng, bent down and raised the jade plate, and said softly, guest, please. After all, he is the only one in the entire Black Rock City branch who has the authority to take out items such as third-grade prescriptions. After a while, Lu Jin returned again. This time the maid behind him had a jade plate in her hand. However, do not take it when a fighter breaks through a fighter, because the qi-breaking pill cannot help a fighter break through a fighter. Moreover, the energy in the elixir circulates randomly in the body, which may disrupt the breakthrough of the person who takes it, causing the breakthrough to fail. he raised his hand to pick it up, took out the scroll and observed it for a while. After confirming that there was no problem, he quickly walked out of Mitre auction house. Although these 2 volumes of prescriptions can still be read completely, the opportunity is only once. If you read at this time, you have to rely on your own ability to figure out some vague places. This will undoubtedly waste a lot of time and energy. Hearing this, Lu Jin was delighted. These 2 volumes of prescriptions had been gathering dust in the treasure house for so long, and finally 1 volume was sold. Thinking of this, he took out the ring containing the gold coins obtained in the cave and a gold coin card from his arms, handed it over and said, "Let's trade." As the flame warmed up, the young pill continued to become smooth and round, and Lin Feng gradually relaxed. The Qi-breaking pill is a 3rd-grade elixir. After taking this pill, it can not only enable a fighter-level person to break through 1 star. Required medicinal materials, 2nd-level magic core, gas-containing grass, flowerless vine. However, it is true that as Mtlnovel auction house said, when he read it, the traces of the soul in it were already relatively weak. Remember, if you want to write a volume of 3rd-grade medicine prescriptions and hire a 4th-grade alchemist to make it, it will take only a year or 2 to complete it. But now, it was only sold for 350,000 yuan. If there was nothing wrong with this prescription, he wouldn't believe it even to death. I want the recipe for the Qi-breaking pill. How many gold coins are there? As for the injury-suppressing elixir, it is an excellent healing elixir that has relatively good effects on some common injuries. Hey. He took back the prescription and searched through several of his najis. Coupled with the balance in the gold coin card, it was enough to purchase the prescription. His tone suddenly became more respectful. "Please wait a moment, guest, we will prepare it now." He quickly took the items handed over by Lin Feng, inspected them, and found that there were about more than 200,000 gold coins in the ring. After a moment, Lin Feng finished reading the information in the prescription and slowly opened his eyes. Lin Feng's eyes hidden in his robe glanced at the ring on the plate, and it seemed that what he wanted was inside. Hearing this, Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. The price was a bit too cheap. Therefore, the average alchemist is not willing to waste precious soul power on inventing such low-level prescriptions. After saying that, he walked out of the VIP room and went to the treasure house to prepare things. After listening to Lu Jin's description of the 2 volumes of prescriptions, Lin Feng immediately looked at the prescription for the Qi-breaking pill and asked, for example, some unpopular or inferior 1st-grade prescriptions are too low-level and require a small amount of materials, so the complexity is not too high. He took out the prescription for the Qi-breaking pill from Neji, placed it between his eyebrows, and slowly entered it with his soul perception. If you read it again later, it depends on God's will how much you can read. As for 2nd grade and above, the alchemist generally requires the alchemist to use soul power as the ink to write on a special scroll, and the failure rate is also extremely high. This means that if you buy this prescription, it will be difficult to exchange it with others. Or to learn from your descendants. There have been a lot of things going on recently, so I haven't checked the chapters carefully, and there have been many mistakes. I'm very sorry. At the same time, I am also very grateful to the readers who corrected me. Thanks for the flamboyance. _EA's reward, thanks to Lu Yifan for your monthly ticket. Chapter 36 Arriving at Mocheng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Immediately, he took a breath, put away the elixir, walked to the window, looked at the sky outside, and saw that the sun had just risen. He quickly left the room, and then strode towards the flying transport located in the center of the city. The reason why he lived in Black Rock City during this period was because he was worried that the stone desert city where Qinglin was located did not have the items he needed to refine the Qi-breaking pill, but now that it has been successfully refined, there is naturally no need to stay here. Naturally, the sooner he can get in touch with Qinglin, a genius with fighting saint qualifications, the better. As long as he can occupy an important position in Qinglin's heart, with this backer, will he still lack training resources in the future? After all, right now, he doesn't know how far he can go in cultivation. After passing through several streets, more than 10 minutes later, Lin Feng saw for the first time the flying transport store standing on a spacious square. On Ruoda Square, a dozen rather large flying birds and beasts were staying. This kind of bird and beast is called thick-winged bird. They do not belong to the ranks of Warcraft, but are an out-and-out flying bird with an extremely gentle temperament and are the easiest to be tamed by humans. However, due to the small number, generally only the Empire has the strength to build such a flying transport team. Although these thick-winged birds are not as fast as other World of Warcraft birds, they have great endurance. As long as it has a full meal, it can fly for nearly 4 or 5 days at a steady speed, and this bird's carrying capacity is also quite outstanding. An adult thick-winged bird can easily carry objects 5 or 6 times its own weight for long-term leaps. However, these thick-winged birds will be forcibly taken back by the Imperial military during an Imperial war. It will not be until the war stops that they will return to the civilian transportation industry again. Therefore, many of them have experienced tragic wars. After randomly asking a passerby for questioning, Lin Feng followed the passerby's guidance and went to the ticket office next to the hall and bought a flight ticket to Mocheng. Afterwards, he passed through a corridor and came to an open space. Looking at the huge thick-winged bird in front of him, Lin Feng couldn't help but think of the airplanes and airports in his previous life. After a long time, Lin Feng came to his senses at the urging of the ticket inspector on the side. After checking the ticket, he entered the room marked on the ticket. After practicing in the room for a while, Lin Feng let out a loud scream, and then, under the command of the trainer, the thick-winged bird suddenly rose into the sky. It began a rapid flyby towards the Stone Desert City in the eastern part of the Empire. Stone Desert City, perhaps due to its proximity to the desert, the weather here is quite dry and hot. The blazing sunshine swayed down from the sky, baking the earth under your feet until it was constantly exuding a smoky heat. The slowly rising heat actually made people's vision somewhat distorted and blurry. With the sound of a large gust of wind hitting the blue bricks, the thick-winged bird that had been flying for several days landed steadily on the open space prepared by the Mocheng Flying Transport Company. After stepping off the flying monster, Lin Feng took a deep breath. For the first time, Lin Feng felt that the fighting spirit in his body was so active, the technique started to operate much faster than usual. After feeling it carefully for a moment, he suddenly said, "No wonder, almost 80% of the air here is composed of earth and fire energy." Walking on the streets of Shimo City, Lin Feng's curious eyes kept scanning the pedestrians on the road. Most of these passers-by, men, were bare-chested, with dark skin all over their bodies. At first glance, they seemed to be quite bold. As for the woman who occasionally passed by, although her skin was also slightly dark, she had a somewhat sexy bronze color. The women here are not as reserved and shy as the women in the Empire. A tight-fitting leather jacket just barely covered her chest and a little bit below it, those slender waists were boldly exposed, and the slender and tight thighs were also only covered by some short skirts or shorts. While walking, the waist like a water snake twists and turns, giving it a charming charm and style. Walking all the way down, Lin Feng had a feast for his eyes. Fortunately, the little fairy doctor went to the Izumo Empire, otherwise he would not have had an easy time today. After seeing this scene, after a while, Lin Feng hurriedly shook his head, grabbed a passerby, and asked, "Old man, how can I get to Shimo City?" Stone Desert City. But when the old man heard this, he thought for a moment, pointed to the west of the city with his crutch and said, "Go over there. There are many caravans heading to Stone Desert City in the open space next to the west gate. You can pay some money and let them take you with them. In this way, you will be much safer." "Thank you, uncle." After hearing this, Lin Feng thanked him and walked quickly towards the west of the city. Soon, Lin Feng, who was walking, saw a map shop called Gudu on the side of the street. He stopped to think for a moment, then continued walking forward. Now, he is just an ordinary third-grade alchemist, and does not have the ability to lift Haibudong seal, not to mention getting the residual picture of the pure lotus demon fire from Haibudong. Since Mocheng was not very big, within half an hour, Lin Feng had already seen the open space that the old man in front of him had mentioned. Looking around, there were estimated to be hundreds of camels staying in the open space in the distance. Among them, there are a large number of mercenaries and caravans shouting here, looking for people traveling with them. The Leopard mercenary group recruits a 4-star fighter and above to go into the desert to hunt monsters together. The mercenary team is still missing one person when entering the desert. If you are interested, come quickly. This caravan is staffed by powerful warriors at the level of fighting masters. We are now looking for a customer heading to the imperial capital. I will keep you safe and sound. thought it was okay at a distance just now, but as he got closer, countless shouts made his head feel slightly swollen. After a moment of adaptation, Lin Feng recovered and began to wander around inside. After searching for a while, I heard a shout, looking for customers heading to Stone Desert City. He immediately turned around and followed the sound. He walked in and asked the strong man who was soliciting customers, "Uncle, how many gold coins are there to go to Stone Desert City?" 1,000 gold coins. The shouting was interrupted, and the man glanced at Lin Feng. When he saw that he was wearing ordinary clothes, he gave up and opened his mouth. Hearing the price, Lin Feng immediately counteroffered, 1,000. "It's too expensive, uncle, can it be 500? Hey, 1,000 is already very cheap. Why do you kid cut it off by half? This is too low. Our caravan has an 8-star fighter stationed there. How about I count you 800? Uncle, the price of a fighting master is this, 500 is not low." After some haggling, Lin Feng finally reduced the price to 700 gold coins. When the man agreed, Lin Feng pretended to feel pain and took out half of the deposit, then followed the man to the caravan. As for the counteroffer, it wasn't that Lin Feng couldn't afford the 1,000 gold coins, but that these caravans were probably normal. However, if you find out that you are a big fat sheep, you may turn into a robber at any time and kill people and steal wealth. Although he could easily kill these fighters, spending a few minutes negotiating the price would save him a lot of trouble, so why not do it? What's more, he has never entered the desert before and has zero experience. To be on the safe side, it is safer to follow experienced old people like them. After all, to get to Stone Desert City from here, even with a camel, it would take several days of walking in the desert without getting lost. Chapter 37 Green Scales. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking into the distance, the outline of the huge city was dyed red under the setting sun. Lin Feng wiped the sand particles on his body that had been blown by the wind and stuck to his sweat. A smile suddenly appeared on his bitter face, since he had never been to the desert before, and it was inconvenient to use Dou Qi on the road. Therefore, these days of traveling in the desert made him feel very uncomfortable. However, there were several attacks by monsters on the way. It didn't happen that the caravan turned into robbers and robbed him. Looking at the Stone Desert City not far away, not only Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief, the other people in the caravan also had a few more smiles on their faces. During the entire journey, they were engaged in defensive work, and they were very exhausted both physically and mentally. And now arriving at Stone Desert City means that they can also take a rest and relieve the fatigue of these days. Amid everyone's expectations, the caravan slowly moved forward to the city gate, and then poured in. After entering the city, Lin Feng paid the final payment, said goodbye to the caravan, and started walking around the city. While wandering around, Lin Feng discovered that there was a city in the desert. Compared with the cities within the empire, it is a bit more simple and heavy. Moreover, perhaps because of its proximity to the Tagar Desert, the defense here is much tighter than within the empire. In the city, heavily armed soldiers can be seen patrolling everywhere. Ouch! Around a corner, a little girl in her mid-20s suddenly jumped out. Although Lin Feng noticed it in advance and immediately stopped walking, the little girl obviously had this ability. While running, his little head hit Lin Feng's abdomen and was bounced away, making him cry out in pain. The cloth bag held by the two little hands was also thrown away, and the contents inside were scattered on the ground. "Little sister, are you okay?" Seeing the little girl fall to the ground, Lin Feng quickly walked forward, helped her up, and asked softly, "It's okay." The little girl seemed a little afraid of Lin Feng's anger and looked at him cautiously. Later, after seeing that Lin Feng really had no intention of hitting her, he breathed a sigh of relief. However, when she saw the food scattered on the ground, her pretty face suddenly looked like a bitter melon. "It's over, this is the only meal today," the girl exclaimed and hurried to the pile of food scattered on the ground. We know that food on the floor is inevitably contaminated with dust, but still holding on to a glimmer of hope, I picked it up from the ground and took a closer look. Then, the girl's green eyes dimmed instantly, her legs softened, and she sat down on the ground again. Seeing this situation, Lin Feng scratched the back of his head and felt a little at a loss. If it were an adult, it would be much easier for him to deal with it, but with a crying child, there was really nothing he could do. he looked at the shabby clothes on the girl's body. It's almost the same as before he was promoted to a fighter, so his life must not be too good either. This time, she also scattered her only meal of the day on the ground, so she would be hungry tonight. Thinking of this, Lin Feng walked to the girl and squatted down, then took out a small bag of gold coins from his body. He picked up her little hand, placed the gold coin in his palm, and said with a soft smile, "Take it and buy another one." Looking at the heavy cloth bag in her hand, the little girl's head was buzzing. The number of gold coins in this bag may not be enough even if she sells it, but thinking of the food he had, he took one out and hesitated for a moment, then he reluctantly stretched out the arm holding the bag. "Brother, 1 gold coin is more than enough for those things I have." The girl twitched Xiaoqiong's nose and said weakly, looking at the movements of the girl in front of him. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that she would actually do this. If it were him, he would probably have run away with the gold coins, but then I thought that this girl lived in Stone Desert City, so she should be very familiar with this place. I am looking for Qinglin here. It would be much better if I had someone familiar with me to guide me. Then he touched the girl's hair and said with a smile, "Little sister, what's your name? Let's do this. You do your brother a favor, and this bag of gold coins will be your reward, okay?" Hearing this, the girl glanced at Lin Feng up and down, and immediately said, "My name is Qinglin. If Big Brother wants to hire me, please let me be fed." "Your name is Qinglin?" When he heard the word Qinglin, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up and he stared at the girl. "Yes, but Big Brother, I didn't mean it." Seeing Lin Feng's expression, Qinglin's heart tightened suddenly, thinking that Lin Feng knew that he had Snake Man blood. She was so frightened that she dropped the gold coins, subconsciously clasped her little head with both hands, closed her legs, and waited for the punches and kicks to come. Qinglin's movement immediately exposed the green snake scales on her arms. Lin Feng was convinced that the girl in front of him was Qinglin. "Ha, I just think your name sounds nice." The fists and kicks he imagined did not come, but instead a gentle male voice sounded in his ears. Qinglin raised his head slightly and looked at Lin Feng who was smiling in front of him. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, she saw the scales on her arms being exposed. In an instant, her pretty face turned pale again. "Yes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." Qinglin hurriedly retracted his arms and buried his head between his legs. His body was trembling slightly, and there was a hint of begging for mercy in his timid voice. Looking at Qinglin's timid look, Lin Feng sighed softly in his heart. I really don't know how Qinglin survived these more than 10 years. With a little force, she pulled Qinglin's arm out, and then, with her fearful look on her face, she carefully opened her sleeve with her other hand. Looking at those blue snake scales, he softly whispered, "What beautiful scales." Hearing this, Qinglin's look of fear froze. Since she was born, Lin Feng was the first one to actually say that these scales that scared her were beautiful. A strange feeling quietly emerged in that weak, almost devastated mind. Opening his eyes that were faintly exuding some strange charm, he said timidly, "Brother, aren't you afraid?" Lin Feng stared closely at Qinglin's pair of green, watery eyes. After careful observation for a while, I found that there were 3 extremely small green dots hidden deep in the pupil. Staring closely at those strange green pupils, Lin Feng suddenly felt that he was slightly in a trance. After a moment, Lin Feng's heart was shocked, and he quickly came to his senses. With a faint look of surprise on his face, the green snake and 3-flowered pupils are indeed the most extraordinary pupils in the mainland. With the power of his soul, he is even slightly distracted. Looking at Qinglin's cute and delicate face, he rubbed Qinglin's little head again. With a smile on her lips, she said, "It's really beautiful. If you were afraid, I wouldn't talk to you here." With these words, Lin Feng did not deceive Qinglin. After all, he has never experienced a war against the snake people, so he is not so hostile towards the snake people. What's more, he himself doesn't have a strong sense of belonging to the Jia Ma Empire. In addition, he had seen these in many entertainment works in his previous life, therefore, he is more curious. Thanks Red is the best monthly ticket. Thanks to 2112WY for your monthly ticket. Thank you Sakura_Sakura for your monthly pass. Thanks to Lu Yifan for your monthly ticket. Since there are too many people who voted for recommendation, it is impossible to list them. I would like to thank everyone for their recommendation votes. Chapter 38 Seeking Strange Fire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Brother, you are so kind. Qing Lin lives in strange eyes all day long, and she can naturally feel it. In Lin Feng's eyes, there was no fear and disgust in the eyes of those people who usually looked at her. Qiong's nose twitched slightly, and her little face was suddenly filled with emotion. Immediately, he seemed to remember something. The little head tilted slightly and asked, "Brother, you just said you wanted Qing Lin to help you, what was it?" Looking at Qing Lin's expression before, Lin Feng's lips twitched slightly. This girl is really easy to satisfy. Then he deceived, "Brother, I have just arrived in Stone Desert City, and there is no one accompanying me. It is very inconvenient. Therefore, I want to find a maid here to take care of my daily life. How about Qing Lin come and help me? Eldest brother is willing to take me in, so of course Qing Lin is willing." Upon hearing Lin Feng's invitation, his green eyes suddenly flashed with light. In so many years, Lin Feng was the first person to be so kind to her. She is naturally very willing to be his maid. Besides, it was hard for her to have a full meal a day now. Following Lin Feng would never make her hungry. "Okay, from now on, you will be my maid. Now take me to the clothing store to help you buy suitable clothes." Seeing that his goal had been achieved, Lin Feng was also very happy, clenched his fists and said excitedly, "Now that I have Qing Lin, I will have a strong background in the future. Your future will be very smooth." "Yes, master." Qing Lin also quickly entered the state, looked at the clothes on his body, and was worried that he would embarrass Lin Feng, so he immediately replied, but then he remembered the bag of gold coins on the ground, and hurriedly picked it up and said, "Master, your gold coins. Keep it for me first, maybe it will be used later." He gently pinched Qing Lin's little face and smiled. "Yes." After hearing Lin Feng's words, he carefully put away the gold coins. Squeak. Qing Lin gently opened the door, walked inside, and placed the tray in his hand on the dining table in the middle of the room. Then, he took out the food on the tray. After doing all this, Qing Lin walked slowly to the bed and squatted down, holding his pretty face with both hands. He looked at the young man sitting cross-legged above him who was practicing, and a smile couldn't help but appear on his lips. The boy's appearance could only be said to be above average, but in her eyes, he was the most handsome face in Dou Qi Continent. The half-month spent with the boy was also her happiest time. Not only did he guide her in her cultivation, but he also protected her from being bullied by others. How she hoped that she could live like this for the rest of her life. After a long time, Lin Feng slowly stopped absorbing Dou Qi and quit practicing. When he opened his eyes, he saw Qing Lin beside his bed and said with a smile, "Xiao Nizi, what are you doing?" Qing Lin, who was in a daze, then remembered his business and stood up hurriedly. He smiled sheepishly and then said, "Young master has had breakfast." Looking at the somewhat charming Qing Lin, Lin Feng shook his head with a smile, jumped off the bed, and walked to the dining table. "Master, why do you always like to look in the direction of Tagore Desert?" After breakfast, Qing Lin put away the dishes and saw Lin Feng standing by the window, staring at the east of Stone Desert City, and asked curiously, "Because there is a big treasure over there. Unfortunately, I am not strong enough and can't get it." With a bitter look on his face, Lin Feng turned around and pinched Qing Lin's little face that had become rosy due to getting rid of malnutrition. How could it be possible? The young master can even defeat a 5-star fighter. Qing Lin was shocked when he thought of the scene where a mercenary insulted him and was punched away by Lin Feng. Looking at Qing Lin in disbelief, Lin Feng glanced at her green eyes and said, "I believe that when you activate the green snake 3-flower pupil, Dou Zhi will be readily available. As for that thing in the desert, at least there must be Dou Zhi. Only with the king's strength can you have a chance to get it." Hearing Lin Feng mention the green snake with 3-flower pupils again, and remembering what Lin Feng said a few days ago, Qing Lin's eyes darkened and he fell silent. Seeing Qing Lin's expression, Lin Feng knew what she was worried about, but he didn't rush her. A few days ago, Lin Feng had already told the green-scaled blue snake about the 3-flowered pupil. At the same time, she was also given 2 choices. One was to go to Canaan College with him, and the other was to go to Tian Snake Mansion. At the beginning, Qing Lin was naturally determined to be the first one. However, after Lin Feng told her that by going to Tianxi Mansion, she would become stronger in the future and give him the greatest help. At that moment, Qinglin began to hesitate. By going to Canaan Academy, he could always stay with his favorite young master. By going to Tian Snake Mansion, you can gain stronger power and be able to better help the young master in the future. The dilemma made the girl hesitate. Lin Feng, on the other hand, hoped in his heart that Qinglin would go to the Tian Snake Mansion. That way, she could get the best training environment. After all, Canaan Academy had never trained the green snake and 3 flower pupils before. He also didn't know if there were any fighting skills suitable for Qinglin's training there. However, Lin Feng did not force Qinglin to make a decision on the spot, but considering that Qinglin has wasted so many years, she must develop her green snake and 3 flowered pupils as soon as possible. Therefore, she was only given 3 days to think about it, and today is the 3rd day. Master, you're saying that once I activate the blue snake 3 flower pupils, the snake mansion will be able to sense it that day and send a strong man to pick me up, right? The room was quiet for a long time, and the girl's clear voice sounded again. That's right. Lin Feng nodded and replied. What level is that? It should be Dou Huang. After thinking about the original work, he said with some uncertainty, raising his head. Qinglin looked up at Lin Feng, and then said, then ask them to help the young master get that thing. Will they agree? Qinglin, you. Hearing this, Lin Feng didn't know Qinglin's plan and didn't know what to say. At first, he took Qinglin in because he only took a fancy to her talent. Now, I saw that Qinglin was willing to go to that distant and unfamiliar place in order to let him get the strange fire. It would be impossible to say that he was not moved. Immediately, I subconsciously wanted to refuse, but I couldn't say it. This is not because he must get the Qinglian Earth Core fire, but where Qinglin can get the best cultivation resources. It's okay, young master. Qinglin has never been able to help you, but this time I can help the young master. Qinglin is very happy. As he said that, Qinglin took Lin Feng's arm, with a smile on his pretty face, and he indeed looked very happy. The premise is that you don't look at the tears that are constantly dripping on both sides of her cheeks. Although Qinglin doesn't know what is in the Tagar Desert, but judging from Lin Feng's actions, it must be a very rare treasure. This time, she must help the young master get it. Moreover, the young master said that if you want not to be bullied by others, you must become stronger than others, but when she goes to Tianxi Mansion, she can grow up faster, and then she can help the young master. Hearing what Qinglin said, Lin Feng also felt that the success rate of this matter was extremely high. Plus, he's not a hypocritical person. Wiping away the tears on Xiaonizi's face, she said solemnly, Qinglin, believe me, I will definitely go to Tian Snake Mansion to take you back in the future. Qinglin, I have always believed in the young master. Chapter 39 Activate Green Snake 3 Flower Pupils. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 39 Activating the Green Snake 3 Flower Pupils. In the vast desert, the wind and sand are raging. Lin Feng carefully protected the green scales behind him and walked slowly against the wind and sand. As they moved forward, the oncoming strong wind, mixed with fine sand, hit their face, causing some pain. The endless wind and sand forced Lin Feng to circulate his fighting spirit all the time, forming a faint film of fighting spirit on his face. In this way, we can avoid being disfigured by the wind and sand. The yellow sand beneath our feet was also exposed to the scorching sun, like small pieces of hot iron. It makes people mistakenly think that they are walking on flames every time they step down. Looking at the endless desert ahead, Lin Feng couldn't help but look worried. Originally, he thought that the environment of the Tagore Desert must be similar to the desert he walked in before. After arriving, he discovered that the living environment here was much harsher than the desert he had walked through before. The screams were still loud and piercing through the clouds, but now they were getting louder and louder. But at this time, it stood stupidly on the spot. Moreover, the fire attribute energy here is also exceptionally pure and domineering. Following the high-pitched scream, beside Qinglin's green pupils, 3 small green dots suddenly appeared, perhaps due to the exposure to the sun. The fire energy here is almost more powerful than the small valley in the Warcraft Mountains. May I? Looking at Qinglin's expression, Lin Feng asked. After his pupils returned to normal, Qinglin's body shook and his eyelids gradually drooped. Coming to the head of the desert rock snake, Qinglin concentrated. Is it almost there? That the three green dots that appeared this time don't need to be as they used to be, they need to be watched carefully to emerge. In an instant it turned into three extremely tiny green flowers, and its head was also held firmly by Lin Feng's right hand, and the entire snake body was unable to move, however, although the environment in the desert is extremely harsh. What? After saying that, Lin Feng sat down on the sand dune and began to recharge his batteries, then his legs exerted force, and his body burst out, rushing straight towards the second-order monster. The pair of vertical pupils stared at the little girl in front of him with a hint of fear. The range of Yoguang became smaller and smaller, until finally, it was only about the size of a palm. After doing all this, he raised his head and looked at the desert rock snake, looking away from the map. Qing Lin looked at the back of the young man in front of him who was a little thin but looked extremely safe. Looking at Qing Lin aside, Lin Feng shouted to her. In just an instant, the green color of the past was restored. Then he took out the water bottle from Neji and poured a small mouthful of water to help her swallow. When he came to the front and looked at the ferocious desert rock snake, Qing Lin glanced at the former with some fear. The snake's tail twitched hard, and with huge force. It suddenly attacked Lin Feng, and when the dim light shrank to this area, it stopped shrinking, and as the scope of the dim light becomes smaller and smaller, the light contained in it becomes more and more abundant. The original ferocity and ferociousness will quickly disappear involuntarily. After worrying for a while, Qing Lin finally felt relieved when the dust cleared. For fire attribute fighters, it can also be regarded as an excellent training place, as this strange green flower emerged. A strong light suddenly shot out from it, illuminating the desert rock snake in front of it. After picking it up and checking it, he found that Qing Lin was only a little weak, so he breathed a heavy sigh of relief. A pair of green eyes, as clear as green jade, stared closely at the former snake pupils. Looking at the top of the sand dune not far away, Lin Feng murmured softly, as the flowers appear, the light begins to fade away. Therefore, after comprehensive consideration, I gave up the idea of using Xian Wing. After a while, he finally fell to the ground, although he also thought about using Xian Wing to travel. The Tagore Desert is similar to the Warcraft Mountains. Not long after, Qing Lin Wu opened his throat and let out a high-pitched scream. Then he took out a healing medicine and put it into Qing Lin's mouth. Moreover, Lin Feng on the side discovered that these three green dots actually looked like three small flower buds. With a burst of dim light, two small green flowers were engraved on the head of the desert rock snake. The two collided, and the resulting wind flow blew rapidly in all directions, pushing the sand grains on the ground violently into the sky. After a moment, the tiny flowers in the blue-scaled eyes quickly dispersed. At this time, those eyes looked particularly eye-catching. There are a large number of mercenaries who come here to hunt monsters, and the flying fighting skills also consume a lot of fighting energy. Thinking that the young master needed her help now, Qing Lin nodded firmly. The weird light moved slowly over the body of the desert rock snake, and finally stopped in the middle of the forehead of the snake's head. When the ghostly light stopped moving, it began to slowly shrink. Soon, the two of them reached the top of the sand dune. Since it was noon at this time, the second-order desert rock snake inside had climbed out of the cave and was lying on the sand basking in the sun. After a while, the rested two people got up and moved forward again. The rock snake obviously noticed something unusual behind him and turned his head hurriedly. When it was illuminated by this strange light, the huge body of the desert rock snake suddenly became stiff. Upon hearing Lin Feng's call, Qing Lin also hurried over. At this time, Lin Feng grabbed the snake's tail with his left hand, twisted it violently, and pulled it to the side of the desert rock snake's head. Seeing Qing Lin fainting, Lin Feng ignored the desert rock snake and hurriedly ran to the former side. Then, looking at Qing Lin behind him who was slightly out of breath, he thought that she still only had the strength of 7 levels of fighting. The two hid their bodies behind the sand dunes, only their heads were exposed. Observing a flat ground below, Shenling took a moment and then said, "Take a rest first and wait a while before setting off." After saying that, a layer of red fighting spirit gauze appeared on Lin Feng's body. As Lin Feng unleashed his fighting skills, the desert rock snake felt threatened by the speeding attack and was not willing to be outdone. He was stunned, adjusted the cloth armor on his head to protect his face, and reminded, "Master, according to what is said on this map, over the sand dune under your feet is the habitat of a second-order desert rock snake. Qing Lin, come here." The three small green dots in the blue-scaled eyes suddenly glowed brightly. the countless amounts of sand and dust blocked Qing Lin's vision and could not clearly see what was going on. Red fire palm, a pair of gray vertical pupils opened slightly, looking fiercely at the enemy who was approaching rapidly. There is a cave nearly 1 meter wide, but the fire attribute energy contained in it is also extremely rich. Wait for me here. It's just that whenever its eyes sweep over the green scales on the ground, instead, there is a gentleness. Thank you Sakura_Sakura for your monthly pass, thank you surnamed Yang for your monthly vote, thanks to Avro for your monthly pass. Chapter 40 Controlling the Horned Viper King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng knew that the desert rock snake had been successfully controlled by Qing Lin. A hint of joy suddenly flashed in his eyes. As long as he could control enough snake monsters, then if he looks for a strange fire, the chances will be greatly increased. Just as Lin Feng was thinking about it, Qing Lin in his arms snorted and finally slowly woke up. He shook his groggy little head, raised his head, and looked at Lin Feng who was holding him, with a slight blush on his face. Seeing this, Lin Feng hurriedly kneaded her temples with his fingers to help her regain her energy. After looking at the surrounding scene, I saw the desert rock snake who was still in a daze. Seeing it, Qing Lin immediately felt that he seemed to have established a strange connection with it. With a slight movement of thought, the desert rock snake instantly did what she thought, swung its tail and swam quickly towards the place she ordered. Seeing this, Qing Lin said feebly and excitedly, "Master, have we succeeded?" Lin Feng chuckled and replied, "Yes, we succeeded." Upon hearing this, Qing Lin's little face suddenly brightened up and smiled. "That's great, Qing Lin can now help the young master." Of course, Lin Feng and Qing Lin were not the only ones excited at this time. In a station not far from Stone Desert City, the middle-aged man who was practicing suddenly felt a strange fluctuation. He quit practicing in an instant and turned his head to the desert not far away. After thinking for a moment, he seemed to have thought of something, and said in horror, "Blue snake with 3 flower pupils." Thinking of this, he hurriedly dropped everything in his hands and ran towards the north at full speed. The clothes on his body, blown by the wind, could be vaguely seen, and there was a word ink on it. In the distant Sky Snake Empire, an old man who had been meditating for an unknown length of time suddenly opened his eyes and looked towards the location of the Gamma Empire. Immediately, his fingers moved slightly, and several soul communications flew out, quickly conveying the order. Soon after, Qing Lin recovered. This time, she had forgotten her fear and was teasing the shrunken desert rock snake in her hand. He also gave it a name, Xiaoyan. Lin Feng sat aside, with envy in his eyes. After Qing Lin conquered the desert rock snake, the green snake's 3-flowered pupils automatically absorbed the latter's energy, and then fed it back to Qing Lin. This allowed Qing Lin, who was about to break through the 8th level of fighting, to successfully break through with the energy of the feedback. This scene left Lin Feng at a loss what to say. Thinking about it, he had practiced hard for several months before he had a breakthrough, but now. After resting for a while, Lin Feng asked, "Qing Lin, ask it if it knows where the temperature is abnormally high around here." "Okay, master." Upon hearing this, Qing Lin began to communicate with Xiaoyan. After a while, Qing Lin said with some disappointment, "Master, Xiaoyan said that there is no place like the one you mentioned in this area." "It's okay. Let's continue to look for a more powerful snake monster, and then let the monster instruct some low-level monsters to find it. This will be much more convenient." Lin Feng touched Qing Lin's hair and said softly. Upon hearing this, Qing Lin turned to communicate with Xiaoyan for a while, and then said, "Master, Xiaoyan said that there is a 3rd-order horned viper king living not far to the east. Should we go there?" Hearing this, Lin Feng was a little moved. The horned viper king is the name given to the leader of the desert horned viper, a snake-like monster that lives in groups in the desert. The level is generally at the 3rd level, but in terms of combat power, it can be compared to the human 9-star master. Moreover, it can also launch combined attacks with its own kind, and ordinary low-level fighting spirits would not dare to provoke them easily. However, although Lin Feng cannot defeat it now, if the control fails, with his flying fighting skills, he was confident that he could successfully escape with Qing Lin. But thinking of Qing Lin, Lin Feng glanced at her worriedly and asked, "Can you control it?" Qing Lin thought for a while and then said, "Okay. Okay, let's go there." After hearing Qing Lin's answer, Lin Feng no longer hesitated, he immediately stood up, holding Qing Lin behind him, and walked towards the east. After a while, Lin Feng and the others had arrived at the location of the Horned Viper King. Looking at the Horned Viper King that was about 10 meters long and nearly 1 meter thick, both of them swallowed their saliva. If it weren't for Qing Lin's presence, Lin Feng would never dare to mess with such a big guy. Not long after, seeing Qing Lin getting ready, Lin Feng opened his hands and motioned for her to come over. Seeing Lin Feng's actions, Qing Lin immediately put his fear behind his head, and a smile appeared on his lips. He ran a few steps quickly, then jumped suddenly, and his petite body landed accurately in Lin Feng's arms. He held the boy's waist tightly with both hands and buried his little head in his arms, smelling Lin Feng's breath. At this moment, Qing Lin felt that she would dare to go up to the Mountain of Swords and into the Sea of Fire. Holding Qing Lin in his arms, Lin Feng immediately circulated his fighting spirit, accompanied by a bang sound. A pair of purple wings stretched out behind him. As Xian Wing shook slightly, Lin Feng turned into a black shadow and flew towards the sky. Arriving above the Horned Viper King, Lin Feng looked at Qing Lin in his arms and said, "Qing Lin, attract its attention." Qing Lin nodded, and then took out a rather large cloth bag from Neji. This was because Lin Feng was worried that it would be inconvenient for him to perform fighting skills because he was holding Qing Lin, and it would be too dangerous to get close to the third-level monster. Then he made another large explosive bag, which contained more than 200 kilograms of gunpowder. If this were placed in Blue Star, it would be difficult for an adult to hold it. However, Qing Lin has the strength of 7 levels of fighting, so it is not very difficult to pick it up. Qing Lin lit the fuse above according to Lin Feng's previous instructions. However, it was not aimed at the Horned Viper King, but was thrown towards its nest. Boom! A few seconds later, the explosive package exploded under the confused gaze of the Horned Viper King. As a muffled sound came from inside its lair, the sand hole it carefully dug collapsed. His roar. Seeing that his precious house was gone, the Horned Viper King suddenly became angry. He quickly turned the huge head and looked above where the explosive package landed. After seeing Lin Feng and Qing Lin in the sky above him, although its IQ is low, it can still guess that these two people are the culprits. Suddenly, he looked at them fiercely, and immediately let out another series of angry roars. The other desert horned vipers beside it were also alarmed and looked at Lin Feng. And Lin Feng fiercely, seeing that he was discovered, Lin Feng immediately took the initiative to lower his height. After dodging several attacks from the Horned Viper King, Lin Feng also figured out its attack range. After reaching the appropriate height, he shouted loudly, "Qing Lin!" Upon hearing Lin Feng's call, Qing Lin also hurriedly started to act. Due to the previous experience, Qing Lin quickly mobilized the green snake and 3-flowered pupil. This time, in the pupils of his eyes, 3 small green dots suddenly appeared, with a bright light. Then a strong dim light suddenly shot out from it, illuminating the Horned Viper King in front of him. Chapter 41 Traces of Strange Fire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When it was illuminated by this strange light, its huge body suddenly stiffened. A pair of huge snake eyes, with a hint of fear, stared closely at the little girl in front of him. Soon after, a mark of green flowers was quickly engraved on the Horned Viper King's snake brain. The Horned Viper King, who had been struggling, also stopped moving, and his fear disappeared. Instead, there was a gentle look. Seeing that the Horned Viper King was successfully controlled, Lin Feng hurriedly looked at Qing Lin in his arms. However, she discovered that except for her pale face due to excessive physical exertion, she did not faint like last time. Seeing this situation, Lin Feng's heart moved slightly. It seems that with the skillful use of Qing Lin, the consumption of the green snake 3-flower pupils will gradually become smaller. However, when he saw the rioting desert horned viper group below, Lin Feng gave Qing Lin another healing potion. Then he said, "Qing Lin, let the Horned Viper King order other members of his tribe to quiet down." Qing Lin also knew that Lin Feng could not use Xian Wing for a long time, so he immediately contacted the Horned Viper King below and then issued an order. Lin Feng stood on a sand dune somewhere, looking at the 1-meter-wide passage on the ground in front of him. Seeing Lin Feng's anxious look, Qing Lin instantly understood that he really found the right person this time. Because he could feel that the movement route of the exercises in his body started to run rapidly without any prompting from him. After Qing Lin heard this, he also thought this method was excellent, so he conveyed Lin Feng's order to the Horned Viper King. Okay, here I come. Thinking of this, Lin Feng swallowed uncontrollably, and his face was instantly covered with enthusiasm. Lin Feng asked Qing Lin to select 2 third-level vipers, 10 second-level ones, and 21st-level peak vipers. This allowed Lin Feng to distinguish whether there were obstacles on the road ahead. A faint soft gaze emanated from it. On a sand dune, the girl's little face was full of excitement, and her clear voice called to Lin Feng beside her. What's more, strange fire is also needed to deal with the poisonous body of the little medical fairy. However, Qing Lin was very energetic. Seeing Lin Feng's appearance, he hurriedly stepped forward to grab him and ran towards the cave. Looking at the fiery red color appearing in front of him, Lin Feng said in a hoarse voice, "Hurry up and let those monsters open up caves to facilitate their entry below." The next day, finally, when Lin Feng held Qing Lin and drew out the passage, after landing, after Qing Lin recovered some of his strength, he began to ask the Horned Viper King. Gradually, the fiery red color reflected on the walls of the passage became thicker and thicker. Upon hearing Qing Lin's instructions, the Horned Viper King roared. The number of desert horned vipers found living here is conservatively estimated to be around 200. Lin Feng suddenly discovered that the fighting spirit inside was a bit stronger than that in the desert outside. Originally, the fire attribute fighting spirit in the Tagore desert was very strong, but the fighting spirit in the cave was pulled into the meridians by the martial arts. Have you found any place nearby with unusually high temperatures? Qing Lin, let them go ahead. But it also shows that at the bottom of the passage is the Qinglian Earth Core Fire, which is ranked 19th on the list of strange fires. It can even be said that 90% of the fighting spirit in the air now is a fire attribute. Even if the asking price is for advanced Earth-level exercises or fighting skills, there will still be a lot of alchemists rushing to buy them. Lin Feng had heard this sentence too many times in the past half-month, and he replied feebly. This is the first time this has happened since I started practicing. Stretch out your arm, put it inside, and then run your skills to absorb the fighting energy inside. In an instant, the two of them found that they seemed to have entered a fiery world. He quickly turned his head and said to Qing Lin, who was comforting the Horned Viper King, "Qing Lin, ask the Horned Viper King to send all these desert horned vipers out and let them look for places with abnormal temperatures." As he went deeper, Lin Feng's expression became more and more solemn. Then, he took out a moonstone and handed it to her hand, took a deep breath, and jumped down too. In the dark passage, Lin Feng hugged Qing Lin tightly in his arms, and their bodies continued to slide down with the help of the slope of the passage. Lin Feng frowned, and then glanced around the desert horned viper's habitat. Although the Qinglian Earth Core Fire is only 5th from the bottom on the list of strange fires, if it gets a suitable auction, after feeling it carefully again, he immediately turned his head and looked aside, and hurriedly urged, "Qing Lin, hurry up, let those monsters widen the cave to a size that we can enter." Although he doesn't have the poison elixir method yet, who knows, will he get it tomorrow? About to arrive. This was developed by hundreds of snake monsters working overtime last night. Immediately, the originally chaotic group of snakes below also quieted down, no longer paying attention to Lin Feng and the other two. When I came to the entrance of the cave, I looked at this deep cave that was more than half a meter wide. Okay. After gliding like this for more than 10 minutes, Lin Feng could feel that the fire energy in the passage was so thick that it was outrageous. The previously dull eyes suddenly became excited. Looking into the depths of the dark passage, Lin Feng held the petite Qing Lin into his arms. But a moment later, with a slight sound, it exploded with a bang. Yes. Qing Lin nodded, and following her order, desert horned vipers crawled into the passage first. In the narrow passage, there was only the sound of clothes scratching on the sand, slowly echoing in the passage. Then, he glanced blankly with his eyes, and then slowly walked over there. After receiving a negative answer, Qing Lin immediately shook his head slightly at Lin Feng. "Master, I seem to have found it this time." After a while, with a few deep roars, the surrounding desert horned vipers started to move and swam in all directions in an orderly manner. In the huge cave, the fiery red magma flows slowly, and occasionally huge bubbles emerge from the magma. In Qinglin's small hand, he was holding a moonstone. The hot magma burst out from it, as brilliant as a fiery red firework. Standing at the end of the small passage, the two of them stared blankly at the almost endless magma world in front of them. They were both shocked and speechless. After a long time, Lin Feng said to Qing Lin, in this environment, there should be a two-headed fire snake inside. You release the Horned Viper King first. I will try to lure it out later. You should seize the opportunity as much as possible. Get it under control or else. Lin Feng paused for a while and said solemnly, we can only run back in embarrassment. After all, if that guy goes crazy here, the two of us will not be able to withstand the molten lava flying everywhere. Chapter 42 Conquering the Two-Headed Fire Snake. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Master, be careful. I can vaguely feel that there is something in the magma, and it is very strong. But don't worry, Master, I will try my best to control it. After hearing Lin Feng's words, Qinglin's little hands clenched into fists, and her little face showed a rare serious expression. Lin Feng nodded, his fighting spirit circulated rapidly, and a Ziyun wing suddenly ejected from behind. Immediately afterwards, the body quickly flew into the air, slowly flying above the magma. The red fighting spirit gauze completely wrapped the surface of the body, and the soul perception also came out through the body, scanning the surroundings cautiously. After all, in this harsh environment, if something goes wrong, who knows what will happen next. In the crypt, the temperature was really terrifyingly high. Even though Lin Feng himself is a fire attribute fighter, the light mist spit out by the magma bubbles can't be ignored. Not only is it hot, but it also contains a kind of fire poison. Sensing this situation, Lin Feng also hurriedly took an antidote pill. When the fire spirit snake, which was attacking happily, saw these eyes, it became stiff just like the previous two snake monsters. A moment later, green flowers emerged from the two heads, and they were successfully controlled. Hearing this, Qinglin also tightened his little face, commanding the Horned Viper King to lead the elites of its kind, and began to condense the energy of all the Horned Vipers to form an earth. Yellow energy shield. Boom! Seeing the stalemate between the two sides, Lin Feng hurriedly shouted loudly. Qinglin shook his head and said a little tiredly, flying in the air. Lin Feng became more and more aware of the hugeness of this crypt. At the last moment when the shield was formed, Lin Feng's body flew past the desert horned vipers and came behind them. Lin Feng hurriedly stepped forward and asked, Qinglin, what's wrong with you? Although the desert horned viper's earth attribute defense is extremely high, after all, this is the home of the fire attribute. Under the leadership of the Horned Viper King, who is at the peak level of the great fighter, he unites two desert horned vipers who are at the top of the third level, 10 at the second level, and 20 at the first level. No, it should be said that Qinglin was basically the one providing the strength, but it was him who couldn't help much. In the midst of the lava flying all over the sky, a huge snake-like monster suddenly burst out of the lava and bit out at Lin Feng, who turned around and ran away like lightning. As soon as Lin Feng's body moved, there was a muffled sound in the calm lava lake below. A moment later, a huge collision sound suddenly sounded in the underground cave. He flapped his wings and shot towards the entrance of the passage with all his strength. Pillars of magma and fire soared into the sky from it, which was extremely spectacular. For a moment, Xiaonizi looked at Lin Feng happily and said, Master, Xiaoling said it knew there was a blue flame below, but the temperature of the flame was extremely high. It wanted to swallow it before. I improved my strength, but I didn't expect to be injured. After that, I never thought about the flame again. Only when he can no longer support it, will he carefully let in a little bit of air and inhale it into his body. The randomly flying magma also stirred up the calm magma lake into a violent rage. Moreover, he just felt a little tired, which really made him not know what to say. However, seeing Qinglin's tired look, he couldn't help but feel a little guilty. If he hadn't taken the detoxifying pill earlier, he might have been unable to hold on and fell headlong into the hot magma. These days, in order to find Qinglin's inner fire, this little girl has indeed put in a lot of effort. Occasionally, as a wave of hot air surges in, a column of fiery red magma suddenly rises from the magma lake. Soon, the slightly sharp cry suddenly rang out, Master, it appears below you. Come back quickly. After seeing Qinglin controlling the fire spirit snake, he covered his eyes with his hands, seemingly feeling a little uncomfortable. Of course, this was also because the fire spirit snake did not use its full strength. After all, when it first started, it just wanted to kill Lin Feng, a fighting master, so there was no need to go all out. Hearing this, Lin Feng was relieved when he heard that Xiao Nizi was fine. Countless hot magma suddenly burst out at this moment. In this way, the safety of both people can be protected to the greatest extent. Earthy yellow and crimson are in a stalemate with each other. At this time, the role of the Warcraft group is also vividly displayed. Lin Feng gently rubbed Qinglin's hair to express his gratitude. However, even this absorbs only a very small amount of air at a time. However, for Lin Feng, it was not a good thing for the lava to be splashed everywhere. Seeing that he was not far from the shore, he hurriedly shouted, "Qinglin, defend." However, because Lin Feng also knew the danger, he did not dare to leave the passage too far, and just kept wandering over the magma next to it. They won't last long without supplements. In order to deal with the fighting spirits of the Mo family, he must find a 4th level magic beast. The reason why he was so anxious was that he was a little helpless. According to the original work, the Mo family might also have discovered the green snake and 3-flowered pupils. Although he was protected by Dou Qi gauze, when Lin Feng spun a few times over the nearby magma, the burning sensation on the skin became more and more serious. Hearing this sharp cry, Lin Feng's scalp suddenly numbed, and his body turned around instantly without hesitation. But every time when the poisonous gas enters the body, the head is still a little dizzy. A little girl who had just been promoted to a fighter was actually able to control a 4th-level monster. Qinglin also knew the urgency of the matter, and hurriedly stared at the fire spirit snake with his eyes, and began to activate the 3-flowered pupil. However, he still didn't dare to breathe the surrounding air randomly. "Qinglin, control it quickly, that the magma flowing around has almost gathered here to form a huge magma lake." Looking at Qinglin, who was just a little tired, he couldn't help but sigh again at the power of the blue snake's 3-flower pupils. Whenever this happens, Lin Feng, who is flying above, will be frightened. Otherwise, if someone from the Mo family really comes, the consequences will be. After a period of time, Qinglin had recovered and immediately asked the fire spirit snake about the strange fire. What's more, the gap between their levels is quite big. Successfully resisted the attack from the 4th-level double-headed fire spirit snake. "Master, I'm fine. It's just that my eyes are a little swollen. I'm afraid I won't be able to control other monsters for a while." Feeling Lin Feng's intimate movements, the corners of Qinglin's mouth quickly rose. However, when Lin Feng heard the heroic deeds of the fire spirit snake, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. He didn't expect this big guy to be so brave, even daring to go up and swallow the strange fire. The whole snake highlights what it means to be fearless in the ignorant.